Hi guys, it's Ali and Theo, and we're back with another episode of the Undecided Gen Z.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything going on in our world, your world, and the world around us from a Gen Z perspective. Welcome back.
Yes, we are back. We are here at desks, still separated. I'm trying to convince Theo to move up to Sydney, and he won't do it. So it's his fault.
Just started spamming my messages like, come to Sydney. Still haven't made the move up.
Why not?
Still probably won't, but...
Or let's just move somewhere. That's my goal. Anyway, we've got a crazy, actually not crazy, so to really hype it up for this intense episode. But no, we've got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to touch on. It's going to be a very chill, relaxed.
Yeah.
Okay, I went from crazy to chill and relaxed. But no.
It could be both, I guess.
Exactly.
We talk about crazy things in a relaxed manner.
Yes, it's more of like the last week's episode, very just low-key chatting. We're not in a room on beanbags, that's for sure, but we're still going to bring that vibe, that energy, which, by the way, this isn't a review, but somebody I've become friends with up in Sydney.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned him before, but he's a listener of the podcast. Have I mentioned him before on the podcast? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
He's a listener of the podcast, and we matched on Hinge, but he wrote something about the podcast, and I knew him that he was a listener. And
yes, the friend that you said was the listener of the podcast. Yes.
We've become really, really, really best friends.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Wait, how did that tie into this?
No, that's what I'm getting to.
Okay,
Ready?
sorry.
We become very, really, really good friends.
Yeah.
And I know we have a review already lined up. That's amazing. But he gave a personal review in person last time we went out, which was last week. And he was he loved last week's episode. He said it was so funny and he was so relaxed. And he's I think it was one of our best episodes.
Really?
Best, he was it was one of our best kind of structure.
Yeah, right.
He did the structure or the not so much of the structure of it.
Probably because we weren't trying to form a non-existent structure just for the sake of having structure.
Yeah.
We're just being real.
We just let it happen. That literally, that episode, we got to the end of it, guys, and we were we didn't touch on literally, I think, more than half of the stuff we had lined up.
Any of the actual stuff we'd planned, we just spoke about random crap.
Yeah.
Dying and stuff.
Which I
Cats
loved.
dying. By the way, how are you going? Check in on the grief situation. Are you coping? Haven't thought about the cat since?
No, I have sobbed. Did I tell you my mom gave me a footprint of... No? Okay, so...
What the?
So there was this letter on the table. It was addressed to my mum when I was back home when we recorded.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is a little update before we get into it all. But the grief, so she opens the letter and she's like, oh, look at this. And it's this little circle, it's laminated and everything. And the vet that put down our cat, they took a paw print of Mike Licorice's paw print before he died, and with ink, and then there's a little paw print, and then as soon as my mom showed me that, I just sobbed. I sobbed for a good half an hour.
Wait, you cut out. What was the paw print on?
The paw print's just on a piece of paper, on ink.
Oh, they dabbed it full with ink.
Footprints? Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. And my mum, because when they asked if my mum wanted it, she was no.
Yeah.
And then she thought about me and she was maybe Ali will want it. And I do because he was my baby. And it's really sad. But it's okay. I kind of forgot about it till now.
Did you consider turning it into one of those hard animals? Sits, but it's just stuffed.
Could you imagine? No, I'd get it squishy feeling.
Oh,
so
no.
You can cuddle it in bed.
Like a stress ball, but it's just your cat. Oh. No, that is weird.
God.
I'm not sure if I'm here for the whole what's
weird.
that process called when they turn them into hard animals?
Theo, you're asking me. Out of everybody.
The person that pronounces encyclopedia. And how do you pronounce it?
Now I forgot it.
Something like that.
Anyway, to our review of the week, our second one.
Yeah, I almost thought we didn't have one. And then I was technically it's not a review, but also it's kind of complimentary, so I'll take it. This one was from on the
Basically
US.
just for Theo.
Yeah, just for me.
As per
But this
usual.
was on the US iTunes store, and it was from Lils_block, and she said, subject line, Theo, you are kinda attractive. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about the kinda, but it's something, so I'll take it. And she says,
slap in the face.
did you need to include the kinda? You could have, yeah, anyway. She goes,
she wanted to humble you a bit,
Theo, can I name my kid after you? Please. Even if it's a girl, I'll still name it Theo. Lots of love. Then in brackets, give me your blessings, Lily.
I don't. But does she need your blessing? Like she could have just done it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you need someone's blessing to name your child an ordinary, like already like out there name. But my blessings are there. Feel free, even if it's a girl.
Speaking of, I've picked out like one name for my kid. If it's a boy,
Really?
It could be a girl's name too. I'm not gonna say it because if anybody steals it, I'm gonna be heartbroken. But
What is it?
My husband, or maybe we won't be married. If maybe we won't be married, but it doesn't matter. If he doesn't like it, we're not gonna be together anymore.
What is it?
Even if I'm pregnant. No, I can't say it. Because, like, what if I say and then all these people are like, yeah, I want that name. So, no.
I mean...
But it's hard to, like, match with another name. So, I'm like, if I have, like, 2 kids, which I'm going to do because...
Is it bizarre?
No, it's, like, it's a bit different. Obviously, you probably wouldn't have met anybody with that name. But, like, it's a common name in some cultures.
Muhammad.
No. You're not going to guess it.
I can't believe you just tease us like that. Everyone at home wants to know. And you're like, just in case everyone listening to it also names their kid this. This is ridiculous. Anyway, feel free to guess it in the comments below, guys.
Yeah. So, Theo, we've seen on your Instagram, we've seen you've been living your life up on the Gold Coast. We've seen it all.
Yes.
What? Like, I'm jealous. I'm living in Sydney, but I'm still completely jealous.
Yes, it was so nice. I went just for the long weekend, just with my co-worker. Just got back yesterday, hit some warm weather. I'm very sunburnt right now. No, it was delicious. And then I get back and I saw that.
It was delicious.
Because I always...
Who calls something delicious?
Every time I go to the beach, right, I'm sure lots of people have this issue. I always forget, like, about sunburn. And I'm like, do I need sunscreen? Especially because it's not, like, a regular thing to be in the sun.
You're white.
I'm like, yeah, maybe if I get a little bit burnt, it's okay. But, like, I don't want to tan.
You're white.
And the friend I was with is like... Are you seriously going to...
I love how you're just ignoring everything.
I mean, I know, but, like, I still forget every time. And my friend's like, do you really need sunscreen? Like, it's not that hot today. And I'm like, damn, she's really making me feel insecure about, like, sitting here lathering myself with sunscreen. So I didn't. And last night I was, like, awake all night. Like, my back is, like, crippling. Anyway, I want to say I've learnt my lesson, but it'll happen next time I'm in the sun also, so that's okay. No, it was really fun. We just kind of head to the beach, went to some bars and stuff. I did have like a very weird situation, right? Which was very also uncomfortable, but I'm also not sure. Like, I just don't know how I feel about it. So I'm going to explain.
You haven't had time to process though. Like for me, when I heard about it, I was like, that's fucked. Like you need to talk to somebody about that.
Damn. I mean, I don't want to frame it as anything dramatic because I don't know. Like, I generally just don't know. But also, you just saw, like, me having a little dramatic story without, like, the actual situation.
That is true.
So you might hear it and be like, whatever, you're dramatic. Anyway, so let's start from the beginning. Just buckle in.
Ooh.
We're at a bar, right? Just getting some cocktails, and we're sitting at one of those, like, risen seat tables, and there's 2 of us, and then a few minutes into being there, a couple of guys come and sit in the table next to us. And so they're pretty presumably a gay couple. So we start just kind of bantering with them a bit, like about each other's drinks, just as you do. And it's like, this is fun. We're like meeting people. We're making like somewhat friends. So eventually like they pull the table into ours and we're like, this is cool. Like we do some shots together. By the way, tequila shots are so tasty. Like...
I know,
where have they been all my life?
Everybody hates me when I'm like, excuse me, I've literally poured you so much tequila. I'm an advocate for tequila.
I know, you have. But with the lime and salt, it's like, this is really tasty.
Yeah, exactly. You got to do it right. Like, I'll do it anyway. But, guys, everybody shits on tequila and it's great. But I feel like it's the one that people, like, get... like vomit off the most.
Well, that's what I was hoping for. I'm like, why am I not vomiting right now? But I'm like, does the Queensland tequila like water down or something? Anyway.
No.
So we're sitting there, we're hanging out, all having a good time, like having drinks or whatever. They're telling us like their proposal story and all this fun stuff. And so eventually they're kind of like asking about our relationship because obviously it was me and this girl and lots of people are assuming like are you guys dating or whatever because it's like going on a beach holiday. Anyway, we're like, no. And he's like, surely you guys like want it though. And I'm like, no. Like it's seriously just a friendship. That would be weird. So the guy goes like, are you gay? And I'm like, no. I'm just like not into it. And he's like, well, have you ever like tried anything before? Have you kissed a guy? And I'm like, no. And so he's kind of like, well, how do you know that you're not gay? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like I can tell without.
Well, how do you know that you're gay? It's like I hate when people say that, like on any end. It's like you know because you know, right?
Exactly.
Anyway, continue.
Exactly. So he just kind of makes these comments for a little while, and I'm just like bantering along, obviously, like just, you know, just being a bit playful, having a bit fun with it. At one point, my friend gets up and like leaves, and the other guy who's there also leaves. He goes to the bar, she goes to the toilet or whatever. And he looks at me and he says, do you know anyone in this bar? And I'm like, no, I don't, besides my friend who's at the bathroom. And he's like, okay, kiss me right now. And I'm like, bruh, I don't want to.
What?
I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm okay, I don't need to do that. And he's like, just try it. You'll enjoy it. And I'm like, no, it's okay. So that's fine. They come back. And at this point, I'm still just kind of dodging around it. So then we're all just sitting there for a while. He's being a bit kind of full on in terms of those kind of comments. He says to me at one point, like, he says, like, pointing at the other guy, you know, we always like experiment with other guys. Like, wouldn't be our first time. So if you're interested, like, just let me know. Like, we can, no pressure. So then we're just sitting there again for a while, and he like is kind of like rubbing my back occasionally, and I'm like kind of dodging away, still not being like super like, hey, just don't. I'm just like, you know, that's.
But that's like consent though. Like you pick up on people's body language and everything. Like that's
and I mean he wasn't, but that continues, and he whispers over, and he's kind of like makes a comment about how. Like pointing at the other guys, saying like, you know, we do this all the time with other guys. Like this wouldn't be our first time. It's not a big deal if you just want to like try something. And I'm like, oh, seriously, I'm like, no, like I'm not interested. I'm vibing just as is, you know. So he says to me, he goes, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Why don't you follow me, and like I'll show you what you're missing out on. And he gets up and walks to the bathroom, and I'm sitting there like, at this point I'm like slightly uncomfortable, but I'm also know like I'm in control, like I can avoid this. But I decide I'm like, okay, obviously I've been a bit, when I say playful, I'm not like, ooh, like, yeah,
but
maybe I do want to.
Yeah,
exactly. And like, you know, for the first part, I'm not sure how like serious he's being either. So I'm just kind of like joking or drinking, whatever. But I decide I'll go to the bathroom just to be.
Why would you go? Theo, you just sit there and you, oh my God.
So I'm like, I want to go and so I can just talk to him and just tell him straight up. So fortunately, it had been a while, so I start to go, and he's like at the bottom of the stairs up to the bathroom, like coming back down. So it's not like we're in a bathroom cell alone or anything. And I just say to him, he's like, oh, you came? And I'm like, no, I just wanted to come and be very clear because like I don't want to be annoying or like lead you on at all. You know, I don't want you to like think that anything's going to happen here. Just to be clear, like I'm not interested at all in anything. And he's like, are you scared? And I'm like, no, I'm just seriously not interested. And he says, well, why don't you just come back to our hotel? You can all come back. We'll just have some more drinks, no pressure, and we'll see where it goes. And I'm like, no. And at that point, I was being pretty direct. I'm like, I'm not joking. I'm not interested. He then tries to kiss me. He literally swoops in, like doesn't kiss me because I pull away. And I'm like, no. And he like kisses the side of my like head, basically. And then it was immediately a bit awkward. And he's like, okay, I get it. We're
How
here.
long did it take?
He's like, we're here to make friends anyway, not like, I don't need this. That's okay, I understand.
Well, it seemed like he needed that, for Christ's sake.
But
sorry, I don't mean to put the Lord's name in vain, but oh my God, I just did it again. It makes me, that's just awful. I'm sorry. Anyway, continue.
Well, so it hasn't got to the worst bit yet. I then go back to the table. And the thing is that they were very nice. They were fun and like kind of lighthearted. But at this point, they'd all had like quite a bit to drink. So I get back, and after a while, they're like, it's shutting down. The bar's shutting down. So the other guy and my friend are like, oh, wait, let's go back to their hotel. Like it's just across the room and just like hang out for a bit. And at this point, I did kind of say to my friend, I was like, let's go back, like that's totally chill, but just so you're aware, like they are like trying to come on to me kind of thing, but it's okay, like I can like avoid it. So we go back to their hotel room, across the road and into their hotel room.
No.
And this is where it just gets very weird. okay, I don't even know where to start, but essentially we're like playing music. They like pour us wine and we're just like hanging out, kind of like dancing a bit. These two guys take off both their shirts and they're like, hey,
Oh my
Theo,
god.
take off your shirt as well. Like, we've all got our shirts
No.
off. And I'm like, no, I'm vibing. I'm fine. And they like start grabbing at my shirt to like take it off. So they're literally like
No.
taking the undoing the buttons, like reaching around. And I'm like pushing away, but just like, no, it's chill. And they're like, come on, don't be lame. Like, we won't touch you. I promise I won't touch you. Like, we're just chilling.
Don't be lame. Oh my god.
It's all a vibe. And I know people might be listening to this and be like, why are you like still even going along with it? But I'm like, at this point, it was still not. I was like, I don't care if they want to be full on or like try and come on to me, because the dudes kept being like, you're so attractive, like blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't care if they want to do that. That's chill. I was just like, I'm happy to stand my ground and continue to say no. But anyway, I'm like, this is just annoying. I'll take my shirt off. So,
No. But that's the thing, though. You shouldn't have felt that way at all. I feel like you're minimizing this because you're a guy, but like it's still just as bad as like if this had happened to a girl.
yeah,
Like
I don't
if
know.
somebody says no and makes you feel uncomfortable, it means no, you know?
So I take my shirt off and we're just kind of dancing around. It's whatever. They then take their pants off, so they're both just like in their underwear.
Oh God.
And then they're like, come on, Theo, you're the only one like not in your underwear. Like, get around it. And it's just kind of this long cycle. We were there for a couple of hours and it's just like them trying to like insinuate stuff. Would be like, this dude kept trying to like get me to like kiss him, take off my pants and stuff. And I'm like, no, like I'm fine. It's all right. He pulls out like some Coke at one point and starts like doing lines and is like, anyone who wants a line has to have their like pants off. And I'm like, I don't need a line. Like, I'm vibing. So at this point I am pretty uncomfortable, but then
No. How can this get worse?
okay, you're good. If you thought that was it, they start trying to pull my pants off.
Oh my God.
So he like will run up and like literally try to grab at my pants. And for the reason I'm not like freaking out at this point is because I was still able to be like, no, and like kind of push them away and they'll respect that. And they weren't like touching me or like grabbing me in, well, they weren't touching me. They weren't like grabbing me in like the spots.
Yes, still.
But a couple times I'm like sitting at the chair, just like chilling, and one of them like runs up and is like, I don't know if kind of jokingly, but like quickly tries to unbutton my pants and like pull them down. I'm like, whoa. And so this is just kind of continuing. I'm like, okay, this is getting increasingly uncomfortable, but I'm not about to like try and ruin the night. I think my friend's having fun. Like, I'll just like continue to ward them off. And then at one point, my friend goes into the bathroom. So it's just us three guys. And one of them is like, okay, while she's gone, just quickly show us. And I'm like, no, show you what? No, I'm not going to. And I'm like sitting on the edge of the bed. So one of them runs up, like jumps on top of me in his underwear, is like straddling the top of me. The other one runs up and is literally grabbing my pants, like pulling them off. They're like, fortunately, they like stay on. I'm like grabbing at them and I'm like, no, this is like too much. I'm like, stop. They're literally pulling my pants off. And then my friend kind of comes out and he's like, guys, chill out or whatever. And so that was that situation over. And then eventually I'm just kind of like very shortly after that, I was like, okay, that is just kind of too much. And like, even though I felt in control the whole time, like I was like, okay, I think it's time we go. And I just like put my shirt on and my shoes. And at this point, they're all kind of like very drunk and dead. So I'm just like, all right, let's go. And we leave.
Oh my God.
So
I just hate people, honestly. Like, I just don't understand how people can, like, I don't even get it if you're drunk. Like, you can't even say you're drunk and that's happening. Like, I have been drunk and I still know, you're still, like, aware of what you're doing and what your choices kind of are, you know?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like, I know you're saying that it's, like, has it, like, affected you hugely or whatever. But, sounds really like an awful experience.
Yeah, I just didn't know because then I was feeling like so weird and uncomfortable after, but I was like, the situation, I was like, I don't feel that bothered until like the end, because like I said, I was like, well, they're allowed to like try and make a move on me and be a bit full on. Like some people are full
No,
on.
you
But then I was
try and
like,
make
at the
a
same
move by,
time,
like,
if someone has been actually that direct, I mean, not even, I mean, obviously
yeah.
you shouldn't have to be super direct, but I was like, the fact that I was, and then there
When
was
you,
still, I
yeah.
was like, okay, that's a bit weird for any situation for them to be like
And
still. And
it's
then I told
like,
a couple of friends, and they're like, that's like legit, like some
that
form of sexual
is,
assault. And then I was like, I just don't
that
know.
is sexual assault.
And someone I was talking to was like, if that was me, I'd like be freaked out. Why are you not like? Are you okay? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, this is like that's really bad. And I was like, well, I don't really see I don't know if there's any benefit in me like overthinking it and thinking in my head that it was really bad. You know what I mean? And then they're like, well, isn't that just kind of like denial? And I was like, but what? I don't
Yeah,
know.
you're denying. Like, I
I
just
just
feel
don't
like
know. It's weird.
I'm obviously not a therapist, and this isn't a therapy session, but like, in my opinion, you're minimizing your experience, and you're in a little bit of denial of like what kind of the severity of what happened. Like, just because like you had the means to like say no and ward them off doesn't make it any like less like traumatic. You know what I mean? Like, having somebody not even like physically touch you, but invade your personal space and keep like trying to go in and doing that is hard enough. But like, to let alone like actually physically, like, yeah, no, I just, no. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's okay. And I do generally like think that it doesn't bother me that much long term. Besides being very uncomfortable in the moment. Now I have been feeling like slightly weird and uncomfortable just because the next day, like woke up and I was like feeling weird, and then this is going to sound very lame, but then I've been doing like this Survivor game right online for like a month
yeah.
and like dedicating my whole life to this, and then like I was blindsided and all my closest allies turned on me. And so then I was feeling like weird and confused about that. And then I was like, I don't know which I'm actually feeling weird and confused about, because like they were both weird feelings. But I don't know. It's okay. It was just strange.
Well, yeah, at least you're like talking about it with people, I suppose. That's at least one step.
Anyway.
And that was the end to your Quizlet. Just because like I don't, for me, when I've talked about like sexual assault, my own and like other people's and stuff like that, I don't think I've faced, oh no, of course, like 'cause everybody I've talked about it with, they've kind of already known that it's sexual assault, but they've always been women. And I think this is where more discussion needs to come into play about sexual assault and men. Because there's like circumstances like this, but then there's also circumstances where women pressure men too. And I feel like we don't talk about that enough. Not to say that like, anyway, I think it's a whole discussion that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't
So
want to.
then-
I mean, it's hard because I'm not trying to say this story as like guys, I was sexually assaulted. Like, this is my story. Like, help me. Like, blah blah
It
blah
just,
blah.
it happened.
I'm saying this as it was like a very weird, like, or weird
Experience.
situation. But then I'm also like, well, if it was like you that told me this story, I would feel like horrified for you.
Yeah.
So then I'm
that's
like,
how
I
feel.
don't want if anyone listening to this to be like and had something similar, then feel like it doesn't matter just because I'm not very phased by it.
No.
Yeah, but that's all.
You
It's
keep
just
breaking up.
Anyway, moving on from that, let's get into some juicier, fun stuff. What has been happening with you lately?
Honestly, I'm gonna start off with the bad stuff and then progressively get better. Okay, just to like, So like, I had like obviously came back. Last episode I was back in Victoria. I was down for a 21st birthday, and then I was all good until the day I woke up after the 21st. And I just got really, really anxious, like super, super anxious. And I think there's like multiple layers to it, but that's for my therapist and me, not for the podcast. Even though I do expose like a lot of things on the podcast, like you guys don't need to hear my therapy sessions. So like I just got super anxious and like to the point where I was like paralyzed by anxiety. Like, and I don't know if anybody else has felt that way, but it's completely awful. Like you kind of just shut down. Anyway.
For no like particular reason you're aware of.
No. It was like because like I was behind on work and but then I had all of these like other stuff going on in my mind that I was like needed to do, and everything just felt very overwhelming. And then it felt like I was just repeating the same patterns that I've had my whole life, right? with schooling and like with everything. And I was
Yeah.
like, when is this ever going to stop? And then that was making me even more anxious because I was like, I'm so done with this. Like, it's a constant cycle. And like, I've tried all of these different things and nothing's changed. And like, guys, I've been in therapy since I was 3. Like, there's been a lot of things I've been doing, a lot of different techniques, a lot of people, and yeah. Like, and I was just like to the point where I was like, and then that was making me more anxious. And I was supposed to fly out that like the next day, that Monday night, right? And I was so anxious, and I talked to my my psychiatrist, and he gave me some, Xanax, which we love. I don't know if I'm even allowed to say what medication I'm on. Anyway, who cares? We're not being sponsored or anything. I don't know.
Really? Okay.
What if somebody finds out where I live and breaks in and steals my medication because they're addicted? I don't know. Sorry, the things that go through my head. Overthinking. Overthinking, yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah, but he got me on some Xanax, and then before we went to the airport, I like had taken one, but it hadn't kicked in. And for that whole afternoon, I'd been crying and being anxious from 9 a.m. to the point probably at 7 p.m. I'd been crying for that long, like continuously. So then I was like, yeah. So
Shapers. Where are the tears coming from?
Anxiety. I don't know. It must have had a lot of like hydration in me.
Yeah.
Been drinking a lot of water. But no, I was so anxious. And then for the whole drive to the airport, because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Mum's like, Ali, like, do you just want to move back to Melbourne? Like, what do you want to do? She was like, do you want to stay here? But I didn't want to stay at the farm because the farm is just too hectic at the moment, like where my mum lives, and there's not even a room for me. And there's all these things about that. But then I didn't want to go back to Sydney because then it means like facing school and being alone up here because I felt like I had nobody or anything, which I didn't really at that point, or like felt like I didn't. And I knew I was coming back to like a messy place because before I had flown out, I'd stayed up all night, and like I just knew I had left it in a bit of chaos. And I was like, in my mindset that I was in, I was like, I cannot go back to that chaos and to all those things like unsorted. So anyway, my mom drove me to the airport the whole time. I was like, I'm not going on the flight. I was like, I'm not going on the flight. Like with tears are streaming down my face, just like continuously crying. The Xanax hadn't kicked in. She got to the airport, and I refused to get out of the car because I was so anxious. So then we drove all the way back to the farm. I didn't get on the plane, but then I booked a flight that night, and I was like, I've just got to go. And because by that point, the Xanax had kicked in, and I was like, I've just got to go back to Sydney. Like, I'm not staying here. And got a flight for the next day and flew back to Sydney. And I thought it would be fine, okay? It wasn't at all. Like, I was still paralyzed by anxiety for like a whole week. I didn't leave my like unit for a while. Anyway, it was just chaotic. Like, I just have never felt that anxious in a long time, and that's because I haven't been on medication for a while because I was doing really well. But obviously things pile up, and if you push them aside too much, they're still going to be there. So don't do that, guys. But so then I was on the phone to my friend, and at this point I'm like not doing fantastic. Like, I think I've had one day where I've like done something, but the other days I just haven't done anything or been to classes. I've just been watching Netflix as that's what I do when I need to escape my mind. I'm on the phone to my friend, and it's like 10 o'clock at night, and I hear this knock, right? And I'm gonna do the knock for you, right? So it's like, I didn't know it was a common knock for everybody, but it's been like in our family just uses that. My grandpa used to use that. So I hear this knock while I'm on the phone to my friend, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, for one, I was like, I haven't ordered any Uber Eats. I was like, nobody should be at my door. And then I'm like, is my mom up here? And she'd like mentioned like a couple times, but through the haze of like all my anxiety, I just didn't even like think about that she'd actually come up, especially without telling me. Anyway, I open the door, and it's my mom with a little backpack and a handbag. And I'm like on the phone to my friend, and I'm like, I'm going to have to call you back. And then I just like burst into tears. And like mom comes in, and then she like, basically she just got me back on my feet, and like I emailed my teachers and like reached out to people, and she obviously did a lot, but it was also, I feel like her just being there gave me like the like strength to like do other things and like actually ask for help from like teachers and like get on with things basically. So that was really crazy. And everything's been going really well since then. Like, I don't know, it's like everything's just been working out really weirdly, and I've become good friends with more people, and I've got a job, which was really crazy. So the end of that week, so
Wait,
Yeah.
before you go into the job, my question is there anything like you do now or anything like, so now you're back on your feet, is it like, are you just waiting for a crash like that to happen in
Okay.
another couple months? Or
So,
is there anything that you
that's
can
a
then like
great
let
question.
you do to
Great
then?
question. Absolutely great question. And I was going to get into that. But so the thing is, I feel like with mental health, you know, you have your ups and downs, and like everybody has their ups and downs. There's mental health has its ups and downs, and then
Yep.
I have mental illness, which is anxiety and depression. But mental health has its ups and downs. And obviously, when you have mental illness, those are worse. For me, I would not have been able to do half the stuff I did to get back up on my feet last time I was back in that anxious position. The difference is that I've seen this like difference multiple times, like when I've had little bursts of anxiety or overwhelmed feelings. The difference is, one, I know what to do to like get myself better again. I know my warning signs. I know, like, so I can ask for help. Like before, like a while ago, maybe like a year ago or something, I wouldn't have asked for help. I would have avoided talking to my therapist during the time. I would have avoided calls from my psychiatrist. I just wouldn't, it would have taken like a month or so to get back on track. Whilst like it took me 3 days or 2 days, and then I was feeling fantastic again, and I had the confidence to go back. Okay, for example, when I dropped out of year 12, I like didn't have the confidence to like go to school sometimes because I'd be anxious that the teachers were going to be mad at me and stuff like that. But like I went in, I emailed my teacher, I asked for help. Like I got just on top of things, and like I don't know how to explain it, but when you get therapy and like do the medication, like obviously things just aren't going to get miraculously better, but I can see little and slight changes every time things do, like my triggers do come up, or like things do make me anxious and overwhelmed. I can notice that my patterns are starting to change, which goes into another story about yesterday, what happened yesterday, which was the craziest day of my life, right? It was hectic. And it was literally, it wasn't the
a big call.
It wasn't the most awful day of my life, but it definitely is in the top couple of them, and like it's for different reasons though. And before I say that, I have to say that I got a job. I randomly got a job. And this is where I said when like things are coming together, because like things have just like after my mum left, things have just fallen into place. I've become really good friends with this guy from TAFE. I just was exercising. Like there was this lady at TAFE who said she could help me out on Fridays just to literally sit at the table with me to make sure I was like, give me motivation to work, like just sit there for an hour, and like has been checking in with me. So like all these things that are just working out that I haven't asked for have been happening. Like I don't know if I'm a believer in like things coming together and like happening for a reason, but it definitely feels like this. And that's also because I went for this, like there's this like walking kind of track I do that's exactly like around about 10,000 steps, so I make sure I get my 10,000 steps in.
Damn, what the heck, in one walk?
On Saturday morning at like 6 a.m. and I went for this walk, this 10,000 step walk. And on the way back, I've seen this like cafe a couple of times, and I had my book with me because sometimes I like to stop and read. And I was like, oh, should I get a takeaway coffee? Do I need a coffee? I was like, I don't know. And then I like kind of saw the sun, and I was like, you know what? I'll sit down and have a coffee. So I would go to this place. It's this cute little place in the corner, and I go and sit and have a coffee. And I'm served by this lady who's so nice. Like I instantly feel so like at ease with her. It feels so lovely. She sits me down at this spot. I open my book and I'm just waiting for my coffee. Then she comes over, and there's this sudden like just feeling in me and this like confidence, like just suddenly. Then I'm like, you know what? I need a job. This is cute place. They were playing this music, which is like Louis Armstrong, Etta James and everything like that. So it was playing all of this music that is like a comfort playlist for me that I already have. Like it's literally the playlist I go to like when I just need to like let go of everything and be in my like be calm. So this playlist is literally like with almost all of the songs is playing that I have on this playlist. She comes over with the coffee. I'm feeling this boost of confidence, and I'm like, before I can even stop myself, I'm like, oh, this is, and I don't know why I use this word, guys, but it happened. I was like, this is very uncouth of me. I don't know why I said uncouth.
Oh. Uncouth?
means,
What is
like-
uncouth? Wait, that does sound right though.
I don't know the
What is
definition,
uncouth?
but it means
Oh wait, lacking good manners, refinement,
yes. So I was
or
like,
grace.
this might be very uncouth of me. And she's like, she stops me and cuts in and she's like,
Ooh.
you want a job, don't you? And I was like, oh no, like I didn't come with the intention for asking for a job. I just was on a walk and it just feels right. And she's like, she turns around the table, walks around the table and she's like, and she stops and she goes, as soon as you walked in and I sat you down, I just knew like you were going to ask for a job and it's just happened. She's like, give me your number, text me your availabilities. Would you be able to start tomorrow? Like, oh, well, she basically, well, before that,
What?
she goes, have you had much experience? And I tell her I've worked in restaurants and like cafes and everything. She's like, basically, and then she said, give me availability,
She's like-
text me, would you be able to start tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, I've literally got nothing on tomorrow. Anyway, she's so nice.
Dang.
I don't know how to explain this feeling. The feeling I had like at that time when I was sitting down and the coffee came in front of me. I've got my book in my hand, the music's playing. I don't know that feeling, but it's like everything was just coming. Yeah.
You felt like it's just clicked into like
Legit.
the world is looking out for you for once.
Yes,
It's
that's
like,
how it
whoa,
felt.
I've
And
just,
like before I went
Yeah.
and like went to that cafe, I had just spoken to my mom about all this kind of stuff that was making me anxious, but that I couldn't sleep the night before. But then I reached out to a really, really close friend who I had kind of made up this whole story about in my head, and I kept like couldn't stop thinking about her and like our relationship, and it was making
unresolved.
me really anxious, even
Yeah.
though like I wasn't always focusing on it. Like when I'd see her post and like stuff like that, it made me like feel really sad because I was like, anyway. So I called her literally at 8 a.m. while I was walking. This is before the cafe. I talked to her. I cried on the phone. It was like everything was just like letting go and coming into place, and everything felt amazing, like absolutely amazing. So that was fine. The next day, she asked me to come in at 9 a.m. I come in at 9 a.m. I work a trial shift for 2 hours, which is hectic, by the way, because it's a Sunday. And then she goes to me, can you stay till 8 p.m.? So I work. And like after the 2-hour trial, she's like, then you'll be paid.
Wait, what
So
were you doing? Like,
I was doing the dishes
Washing?
for a bit, but that's not what they want me to do. So I was doing the dishes for a bit, and then because it was really, really busy
Okay.
because they had a catering thing, but then I was like learning the basics of how they function and everything at the end, like
Yeah.
in the night. But then these people ended up staying, and I didn't end up finishing until 9:30. But so that was a 12 and a half hour
Dang.
shift, and
why was it open till 9:30?
the cafe goes into
That's
restaurant.
a late cafe.
Yeah. By the way, that's where we're having the dinner
Oh, nice.
on my birthday. But you might not be there because your flight's late. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, on the
So
Friday. Yeah. Okay. Rip.
yes. So I worked a 12-hour shift. I got the job, by the way. And everything's great. Everything is so good, right? And this is what happens in my life. Everything goes
no.
so great.
Oh no! Stop there.
Yeah.
Just stop.
And
That's
then
enough.
Yesterday, I've had this hair appointment booked for like a week and a half, a couple weeks, and tells me to be there at 8:30. So my boss texted me the day before that night, like the night that I worked the 12-hour shift, and is like, Ali, I'd like you to work from 5 till 9 tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, I've got that. Easy. So
Yeah.
this hair appointment starts at 8:30, and I'm like rushing out the door because I like was so exhausted from work, and I'm rushing out the door, and I was like, I'll drive to my hair appointment because it'll be quicker. I'm on the phone to my mum, and I lock myself out with the car keys inside, with my house keys inside. I am locked out of my apartment, and I realize this.
Wait,
No, I've
you're
just
not-
left my apartment.
That you
No,
know. I thought you were in
I
the
was saying
car.
I was going to drive. So, yeah,
Oh, you're
So
just
I
standing
literally-
outside.
literally standing just outside my door, just having realized I've locked myself out, wanting to burst into tears right now because I'm like, this is not happening. So then I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. So then I book an Uber, go to my hair appointment. I show her up there at 8:30 on the dot. She's not there. The place isn't open. And I wait there for a bit. not open. So I'm like, okay, I'll go for a coffee around the corner and just like wait a bit. I text her.
It wasn't open at the time.
It's like a African hair salon and like shop that like they only open it if they have appointments early, but it usually opens at 10. So I'm sitting there and waiting. I've texted her. So
you're like, girl, I need to have an
so
appointment
I'm waiting
at 8:30.
for her to text back. It's so stressful. She's not there. Then I'm like, finally I have to call her. So I call her at like 5 to 9, 10 to 9. And I'm like, hi, like I had an appointment at 8:30. I'm just wondering like what's happening. She's like, I'm just around the corner, okay? So I walk out at 9, get in there. She's there. It's fine. Except she doesn't start braiding my hair until 10:30. So I've been waiting in there. She's like unboxed all of these stuff. She's pulled apart hair, which is like the process of like trying to like braid the process you have to do to braid hair. But anyway, so she doesn't start till 10:30. And I'm already stressed because now I'm trying to figure out a locksmith that won't cost a lot. And I called the locksmith for the price for a locksmith after work, so which it was 9 between 10, was going to be $180. So now in my mind, I'm like,
dang.
I need to have a time frame between work, which is at 5, and getting my hair done, which I can call the locksmith to come. And I can't figure it out. So I'm freaking out. Then I text my boss and I'm like, call my mom. Anyway, this is so hectic. So this is why I'm getting my hair done. I'm anxious the whole day. I'm sitting in this chair wanting to cry because I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm so stressed. So I text my boss and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know if I'm going to have time between this appointment that I have and work, and I've locked myself out, da-da-da-da-da. And then she's so lovely and she goes, oh, I can be there and meet the locksmith. And usually I'd be like, my boss.
Wait, who can?
Because she's like, I need you to work. And I was like, that's so nice. But I left my place a little bit like with clothes everywhere. I'm sorry, Mom, if you're listening. I know I said I threw out my weed, but I didn't. I left weed on the table. And I'm like, I can't have my boss be in my apartment and see all that.
Damn, this is the type of person I just employed.
So I was like, I can't have that. I didn't make my bed that day. The one day, like, I don't make my bed. I know.
That's so nice of them.
The one day I don't make my bed, this happens. No, literally, I've been making my bed for like a week now. So anyway, this is just the icing on the cake, right? So then I was like so anxious. So I called my mom, like, how do I come up with an excuse to say no? No, that's not it. But like I called the locksmith and they're like, nah, you actually do have to be there. So I was like, oh, sorry, it's all good. And then I'm stressing because the hair's taking way longer than usual and I don't even know if I'm going to be done by 5. So then I'm stressing and then I'm like, Mom, what do I do? So then I'm like, oh, I'll say that I have to ask my mom to front the money which I did have to ask my mom to front the money for like the late fee cost for the locksmith. Then my boss is like, oh, don't worry, I can front you the money. And I'm like, I get it. She's like, how much is it? And I was like low-key trying to get out of working because I was just so anxious. But
stop.
No, stop. Because I was like, I don't know what to do. It's like, and it's not like a hair appointment where you could just like leave without getting a blow dryer or a straightener. Like this is braiding. Like I have half my head braided. My mom's texting me being like, just put it up in a ponytail, it'll be fine. No, it won't. I will be fired for looking like a crazy lady. Not for being late, but for looking crazy. So
could you chuck on like a bonnet or a veil?
A bonnet to work. Like a restaurant. Oh my God. So a veil. Yeah, I'll put on a veil. So this is just
a balaclava.
This is just the icing on the cake, right? So I was so stressed. And then I'm like, I'm just gonna be honest. So I was like to her, look, I'm at this hair appointment. I've been here since 8:30. They're taking forever. I don't know if it's gonna be done by 4:30 to get there in time for work. And she's like, that's no worries. And then it gets to 5 and we've still got a whole section of my hair to go. And then it gets to 6 and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I text her, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like we're still going. Like I think we'll be done by 6:30. I'm not sure. Then it gets to 7 p.m. and we're finally finished at 7 p.m. But at that point, I'm like so anxious. I've been holding in this anxiety because it's not like I can cry or be anxious in front of these people, right? So I'm holding in this anxiety this whole time. I step out of the salon and then I like start to cry and I'm like on the phone to my mum and I'm like, I haven't eaten all day, by the way, because you don't really eat when you get your hair braided. And I hadn't had breakfast.
Why?
It's not like
Was that
wrong.
so
I just
wrong?
feel like weird about it.
Damn, that
so it
is
was
so
11 hours.
long
It was 11 hours.
to be sitting there.
Yeah.
What? What do you do
Well,
for 11
I was
hours?
on-
Just side note, besides, I guess this time you were just spending the whole time
usually
freaking
I'm
out.
on my phone or sometimes I watch movies or like I had brought my laptop, I was going to study. But that whole time I literally like for half of it I sat there just like stressing like internally. So what happened was I was like, you know what, I'll just go across the street to Foodworks while I'm on the phone to my mum. Like tears are kind of streaming down my face, but I'm trying to like hide them from people. Then I go down some aisles that are like empty, like because I'm crying to my mum. At this point, I've never had this much anxiety. Like I've had like build-ups of anxiety before, you know what I mean? But I've never had sudden like onset like trigger, like absolute like.
And what does your work think at this point? What have you said to them?
I kind of updated her. The last thing she said to me is just I'll see you when you get here. Basically being like, when you get here, whatever's fine. So basically, I've never felt this much anxiety to the point where like I like onset sudden anxiety, as in like, well, it wasn't on.
Yeah, right. From a such a specific
it wasn't like
trigger.
onset. Like obviously, I've been feeling it all day, but it's the fact that I couldn't like talk about it with anybody because the hair people would know. I couldn't like show my emotions. Like I was holding it in all day, and then finally got under it, and it just burst. I was shaking from anxiety. Like I couldn't breathe. It was like basically a panic attack, an anxiety attack. I was like, my work's, I'm going to be fine. It's my second day. I was like, all these things are going wrong. It was just awful. Anyway, I go through this aisle. I'm like crying.
No.
And then I'm just like a mess. And then I'm in Foodworks. This rat runs across the floor in front of my foot and runs
an actual
an actual rat runs from one aisle to the other aisle, and I'm in complete horror. Like it's like a meter in front of me.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do, so I tell my mum, and my mum at the moment is obsessed with like.
What is your mum saying? Your mum's just like, like, what does your mum say in this situation to even console you? She's just like, it's okay, Ellie, and you're like, it's not.
With the anxiety.
Yeah, just like you're on the phone.
Well, what was really hard is
with
my anxiety, mom tries to come up with strategies or like tries to be like, do this or do this. Like these are your options. But that doesn't help me in that moment because I'm already too far gone. Like all I need in that moment is to be like, Ali, just like calm down. Everything's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And like she'd started doing that just before the rat had run across the aisle. So this rat runs across the aisle. Then I tell my mum. My mum's obsessed with like Superstore, and if you've seen Superstore, they have these little like montages of like random like things that are happening in like a store that's like Walmart. So like kind of stuff like a rat running across the floor, like it'd be like that. So my mum's obsessed with that and thinks it's hilarious. So I tell her this what's just happened, and she bursts out laughing. So then here I am like kind of laughing, but also sobbing and like wanting to die because I'm so anxious, but like laughing and. Then this couple walks around the corner and they're like looking underneath, and I was like, did you see that rat? Because I was like, at that point I was like, maybe I'm like imagining this. I was like, maybe like, yeah, like this anxiety is going on to the next level. Like we're becoming delusional. And they're like, yeah, you saw it too. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, it ran over my foot. And she was in thongs. I'm not joking. So then my mom's laughing. I'm walking through the store and then I'm still anxious and start crying again because like funny, but that won't cure my anxiety. Then these people where the rat just flew over, like ran over her bare foot, are continuing to shop. Like they're still shopping in Foodworks. When
well, what do you want them to do? Just like leave without their groceries.
Just ran over their foot, and they're just like they were acting casually. I like walk past them and they're like picking up food, like be like, ooh, this. I was like, I mean, I'm petrified already, and
what's the alternative like response there?
You leave the store because a rodent just ran over your bare foot,
and then you had a rat run over your foot, and you didn't get the groceries you needed, so it's a double loss.
But you're going to go to the grocery, like buy from the grocery store that literally had a rat run
You're still walking around the rat store.
Yeah, but I was walking around because I was just so anxious. Like, I didn't know what else to do.
Okay.
So then I get to the point where, like, I do buy something. But it wasn't on the ground, guys. It wasn't even near the ground. It was, like, fresh produce. It was just, like, you know, the cheese and cracking containers. Yeah. So I bought it and I had to hang up on my phone. And then I got out and you know what I was like? I was like, you know what? I'll just book an Uber and I'm just like, I've got to go. And this is where I'm saying, where you asked before, the difference between like this happening again. This level of anxiety is like what I had on that weekend, but kind of just like different because it was like on set. But it's the fact that like in the past, if I was so anxious at a job, I would just be like, I can't come in. I can't do it. And I would give up. But I went and I walked in and I was so anxious, like just like overthinking everything, thinking she was going to hate me. Like the only reason she still wants me to come in, like it's 7:30 at that point and I was supposed to finish at 9. Like the only reason she wanted me to come in was to fire me in person. And then I walk into the door and I go in and like she's in the kitchen because she's also the chef. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, I've been in tears because I've just felt so awful. And then she stops and like gives me the biggest hug. And she's like, just go get changed into your black shirt. And then she's like, then just go ask, like, you're following instructions from this other lady today.
Yeah.
So then basically I broke a glass.
Of course you did.
Because I was so anxious because I got a call at the same time that I broke the glass, which was the locksmith saying he was going to be there in 10 minutes. So I had to leave work like 5 minutes earlier. And I'd already been there, like only been there for a short amount of time. Anyway, so I broke a glass. Anyway, I got in the Uber and then got to my place. And as I was stepping out of the Uber, nearly get hit by a car. Like, because I'm just not focusing. A car literally like comes straight past me, nearly get hit by a car. But I didn't, obviously. I'm here right now.
Yeah.
The locksmith gets me into my place. I call back work, see if they need me to come back. They're like, no, it's all good. Everything is fine. What I'm trying to say is, it gets better. And not just from the day. Like, it was an awful day. It was literally one of the worst days of my life just because everything had accumulated and everything felt like it was going wrong. And I know for some people it would be like, Ali, it wasn't even that big of a deal. But for me, for my anxiety, everything literally just, it could, like, there could have been worse things, but it just was at an all-time high.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that, like, take me back to 2018 or before 2018, 2019, 2020, I could not have done any of that or handled any of that as well as I did yesterday. But I could not have handled any of that like I did yesterday back then. And like that's showing progress and showing that like my mental health is getting better. And although we still have those like periods of really bad lowness or like my mental health goes in and out, it's like every time it's getting quicker, every time I'm doing something better and getting over something easier than the last time.
No, that's very true.
Yeah.
And I think people, if they were even to go back and listen to past episodes and you talking about those jobs you had in the earlier days of the podcast and like your responses to those, like it is just kind of goes to show the growth. So
exactly.
Good job.
And like for some people that might be really small because like that was back in like 2019 and we're in 2020, oh my God, we're in 2021 and like, wow, that's so much. But like, I think it really goes, just like putting in the effort and finding out people to help you with like things do get better. And I know that's so cliche, but looking back on like how even in the moment some things were really fucking hard, how like they've like helped me be able to achieve other things now. Like walking into work yesterday was one of the hardest things I've had to do because I just feared her response and like being rejected and being having a negative response. But doing that, I now know that I could do that or a similar thing like that again.
And you have an experience of a positive like outcome to base it on.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
And I think that's so important.
And it's basically just like your anxiety is telling you can't do stuff, but you can. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's so important for people to hear those like wins, even if like the actions like might not seem huge, but the fact that like the outcomes were so huge, like the cripplingness of something like showing up to a job, which might have been in a past job, and the success of showing up now. Yeah. Yeah. That was really good to hear. So that's a little stupid. But my update was so much longer than yours. I just rambled so much. But like, I feel like to explain things, I have to go into detail to things because they don't seem as big as a thing as they are. And everything ties together. And that might not make any sense to any of you because that sentence was basically just bullshit. But I mean, no, it comes together. Like, yeah, right. It makes, yes.
Yeah, everything just ties into one and all these experiences that I've had, like even not being able to get into that plane because of the crippling anxiety, and that was literally like a week ago or like less than a week ago or so. And then having that same like crippling anxiety where like I was shaking, having an anxiety attack, and being able to go to work.
Yeah.
Like even in the span of like 4 days.
Yes.
Because I've had like, and that's because I've had like positive reinforcements from like people around me in those 4 days, and like things have had different outcomes which have showed me things.
Yeah.
But basically what I'm trying to say is if you just focus on the good things even in the bad things. That makes quote by Ali Malcolm. But like no, honestly,
true.
I actually say that though.
Yes.
But like the bad things, they're bad for a reason because they make you like appreciate the small like implication that it has on
100%. And some of our
I don't know
listeners,
what I'm
I
trying
know
to
for a
say.
fact, will be like,
End quote.
really need to hear that. So, yes. No, it's like watching a movie, you know, when you're at the cinema and you're like, what the frick is happening? But at the very end, it's like,
Yeah.
it all makes sense now. That's why
that's
it
it.
all
No,
comes
that's what I'm
together.
talking about. Why can you put into words so much? Like, so many things have been like, oh, I hate it in the moment. Like, me moving up to Sydney, I don't know if I've said this, literally the worst experience of my life. I had no support really from my mum or from anybody, like, up here to do everything. I had to do everything myself. It was the worst, like, couple of weeks ever. It was so overwhelming and stressful. But then, it was awful in the moment. But then looking back on it a couple of weeks later and now, I'm like, hang on, I did that all myself, and that means I'm capable to do things on my own, and I achieved all these things. You know what I mean? Then it adds to the list, and then that list gets better than the other long list I have of things that go wrong.
Yes.
And slowly, the list is evening out.
Even out. That's what we want.
So take that into
and
account.
acknowledge the wins, because they are happening and they do happen.
And acknowledge the growth.
That's right.
The growth.
Yes.
Anyway, I feel like we should get into some people picks.
Yes. Let's hear what the people have to say, because we had so we've got a few guys today which are all really good topics, but we had like 2 particularly like specific messages which people like hit us up with, right?
Yep, we did.
So
you take away your one first, because I feel like I just talked for too long.
No, so the first one comes in, Sorry, where is it? The first one comes in from, actually I'll keep her anonymous just in case, but she just basically said, I wanted to make a request for something you two to talk about. And she shared a CNN Instagram article, and it's like a screenshot of this article, and it says, New Jersey adds X gender marker on driver's licenses and other state identification. The X identifier will indicate that a person's gender is unspecified, a big step for those who identify as non-binary or someone who doesn't identify as male or female. And I'll read out her message, but she said, it's to do with this post, particularly the comments. I feel like some of the people in the comments are being disrespectful and a bit hateful toward the people this X option on identification documents is supporting. This upsets me as a teenager who is still figuring out their sexuality and gender. It makes me scared to want to explore the possibility that I may not be heterosexual and cisgender. Like, what if I meet someone who's unnecessarily rude or violent towards me? The particular part I would like to hear your opinions on is the fact that some people, particularly ones in the comments of this post, believe the X option is forcing them to play pretend, and why they're saying it's pretend when it's someone's actual feelings and mental health, and the fact that they want to feel more accepted, comfortable, and safe within society. Is that not what we are constantly working for? Sorry for spam texting you. I also apologize if you already addressed this. Anyway, I love the podcast. And just for a bit of context, some of the comments on this post, potential trigger warning, let's see. So this person said, gender times what? WTF is going on in this world? This world is crazy. This world is sad. You can't be serious. That looks like a man to me. With all the issues in the world, this is a priority. That may be stupid. I don't know. So lots of just hateful comments on there. What do you think?
And I say this about everything, but like if things don't affect you, like, okay, this is, I'm taking away from like obviously caring and empathy for other people and other people's circumstances. But if things don't affect you, if other people's decisions about themselves and how they want to identify or dress like or express themselves like, if they don't directly affect you in a negative way, in some way, why do you care? I don't understand why people care so much. It's not like they're asking people to be, you have to be an X. It's not like they're forcing it on anybody. They're just giving an option. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't get it.
And yeah, no, I totally agree. And I guess I feel like for me, I still sometimes I'm kind of find myself confused between like a gender and then the balance between gender and sex in terms of, you know, if someone's like, gender is a social construct, which it is, and it's basically just like a definition of how a group of characteristics of how someone behaves, right? So we associate male with a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So if someone's like, well, I don't want to associate with either gender in terms of like behaving in some way, but then saying like, well, could you still be a female but with a non-binary gender? So I don't know, if I think too much deeply, you know, that thing still kind of it confuses me.
Yeah.
But then I'm like,
no, see, that confuses me too, but like I know that like whatever they choose, I think sex is more like classified when you're born, and then I think as soon as you can identify or as soon as you know your gender, then I think that should be whatever sex, like then sex shouldn't matter. And I know that can be really confusing for somebody, but like let's say you have a baby and like as like they grow up, like they're either a male or a female, right? They're a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, they have either male or female genitalia, and that's how we identify male or females in that way. But I believe that like as soon as that person can then be like choose for themselves, no, I'm a male or no, I'm a female, and then identify their sexuality or what they want to be, or if they do want to be non-binary, because sexuality obviously doesn't like take away your sex. Like you can be bisexual but still identify as a female. But I feel like non-binary, which is the X, is in a category of itself. So you've got like the two categories, and then if you choose non-binary, you're here.
Yeah, no, and I definitely understand that in terms of like, you're like, I don't want to just identify with like this set of characteristics, which is typically associated with male. So I just want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, well, could you're talking about gender. So, but then you rarely hear someone who's like, I know I'm a male, but like my gender is non-binary. But anyway, that's just like an interesting thing, which I'm like, there's probably... But I think ultimately what it comes down to for me is like if someone, the whole world, our whole lives are us like discovering like who we are so to be. And I don't think you can ever fully get to that point. So it's like discovering how you can be like satisfied and find purpose and like contentment in this world. And so if someone's like, well, I don't feel like I associate with that. I feel like I want to be X just to be free. And like, that's what makes me feel comfortable associating with that. It doesn't like the definitions and going down to the nitty gritty of it. Like it shouldn't matter at all. Like you are totally, and I guess like this girl is feeling a bit stressed out I'm not sure what she identifies with, but this person is feeling stressed out because of this hate. So I guess what we just want to say is that obviously you are valid, and experimenting with like how you identify is totally valid in every concept.
I don't know. In a couple of years, like we'll look back and be like, why did people care? Like, why did we care so much about this or that? Like, I'm not even talking about specifically the X, but it gets me so stressed out because I'm like, why people care? Why do people care? Like so much. Like who has that time and energy? Well,
that's the question. Like, the question, because she's feeling stressed about that. So let's actually try and think. Why? Put yourself in the mindset of the person commenting. Why do you actually think they feel like that?
I think they feel like that because they don't understand it enough, or they have their own issues with either their own sexuality or have had experiences where they have felt like confused about other people's, like, you know, when you have no idea what's going on or a lack of understanding, let's say like in a subject, in like math or like history or something, and you don't understand something and you get frustrated because you don't know how to comprehend it.
And then you get defensive because your current understanding like is such in conflict with this.
Exactly. And like because you don't have the behind knowledge or haven't taken in the behind knowledge or the time to learn that math equation or how to work through that issue or solve the equation, you get frustrated and then you get defensive. And then, you know, for me, like, I don't know, everybody just gets frustrated when they can't get something right or understand something. And I think that can then be taken into like this situation because they don't fully understand, because either the way they've been brought up has taught them not to fully understand, and they don't understand because they haven't been exposed to things like this before, and because they haven't been exposed, then everything is confusing. You know what I mean?
I mean, it does make sense because as compared to what the whole world has known forever in like male, female, this, that, like so separate and distinct. Like, this is such a big shift, and it would be crazy for someone who hasn't had that much experience. So, like, obviously, I don't know if I'm not here to like give great advice, but like, I guess the only thing you can really approach it with is like looking at these people, like, they may be hateful, but they're also just dumb and not educated in this space, and they just don't know.
Yeah.
And I guess I think if I was in that
literally
situation,
don't know, and they
that's the only way I'd be able to
don't
combat
want
it.
to take the time to know either. That's my thing, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, we love you, and you can do what you like, and good luck.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
And thank you for sending in the message, and I'm sorry that you're feeling that way and being affected by these awful people who have so much time to be hateful. Like, think about all the good things they could be doing. It really stresses me out, honestly.
Legit.
Our next thing is also a serious topic. So
I know, I'm just like, damn, this is
a serious episode. We were like, it's going to be chill. That's why I was like, it's crazy. But then it's just
this
been
is
like
heavy.
Mental health, sexual assault, gender diversity.
While we're on
and
this
now,
level, I guess we may as well stay here. So what's the next topic?
The next thing is I got and I know he listens to the podcast because it's mentioned in the message, but he went to our school and he sent me a DM a little while ago, back in April, at the end of April, and I firstly didn't know how to respond to this DM, so I left it a couple of days because this is something that stresses me out often, obviously, but like stresses me out about not speaking about it on the podcast, but also like how to handle this and how to handle when people ask me to explain stuff or to be their kind of guide per se.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if I'm exposing this person. I'm not going to say your name, but I am going to say your message because that's what this podcast is about. So they go, do you have a podcast out on the latest police violence in America? ? I would love to hear your thoughts and just be more informed. It's hard to keep up with everything fucked happening in our own country, let alone overseas. I know it's bad when every single post about a black person shot by police is a different name I've never heard before. It seems to be never ending, and it's so sad. So when I first got this DM, I immediately was frustrated, I was pissed off, and I was sad. One, because all of this stuff in America obviously hits me very hard because I'm African American, and obviously I just care a lot about what's going on, and I've got family and everything, and it's awful that people are being killed by the police. But two, a lot of people come to me, and especially last July with the George Floyd murder, came to me and asked me to give them information and for help and to understand and all this stuff. And I think I posted back then quite a bit about it. But black people, we go through fucking enough trauma without having to educate other people on it. So that was my first response. I was frustrated. I was like, I am already going through all of this on a daily basis. I'm keeping up and keeping informed for myself and researching on my own level.
Yeah.
And then processing all this information and feeling all of this trauma. Why do you think I should have to inform you and educate you? If I can educate myself and I'm not in America, you can do the same. Like, it's not that hard. We all have a phone. We all have access to the internet,
and, I mean, I think that I was surprised when you got that message, because I think for me that was like and I think for most people that was like one of the biggest points that came out in terms of learning the whole like not relying on black friends. Like they're not like an infinite source of wisdom about this just because they're black. Because I think it is interesting, like someone hears these issues and they think like I'm a white person, like I don't know anything, like let me not try and like have my own opinion, let me like try and go to someone who actually knows personally in terms of like a black person. And so it does feel like the right thing to do, but then like you say, it's like you are just like anyone else in terms of accessibility to this information.
Exactly. And then you're asking this black person to relive their trauma and relive everything that they've already processed and continuously process, and then try and explain it to you especially without knowing what your response to the situation is going to be. Like if white person tries to get educated for a black person, sometimes you don't know how they're going to respond. It could be negatively. They could have just a bad response, which would then trigger or traumatize a black person more, or a person of color.
And it is a balance, because you do want to, like, when you're trying to educate on topics, like, go to a source of like personal experience and like, rather than like speaking from your own, like.
For sure, yeah.
But then, But
it's just, I think it's the fact that, like, I literally go out of my way. And this is because this was at the time, and I do post a lot, like, every now and again when things do happen. And I was posting, like, when, I don't really want to talk about it, but there's been a couple of murders by, like, of really young people by the police recently. And I literally posted their names and things on my story. So I had gone out of my way, already done my research, already read up all about this stuff, and gone out of my way to put this information on my story to then give you access to more. Like, I have literally already given it to you and you're asking more from me. And, like, anyway, so my first response, and, like, internally, was I was furious. I was sad. I was upset. Anyway, so I left it for like a couple of days, and then I was like, hi, sorry for the late reply. Should not have said sorry. Sometimes I read back and I'm like, there's nothing to apologize for. Anyway, I go, we don't have a podcast about police brutality. I've wanted to say this on the podcast before, so this explains it a bit. But I said, I've wanted to do one, but it's very emotionally intense for me and a hard topic to discuss. I don't want to say the wrong thing, as I worry I can't verbalize everything in the right way, which I do have sometimes a hard time verbalizing things. And then I was like, it's completely never ending. And one of the hardest things is that most of the ones we hear about now are from a while ago, or sometimes we just don't hear about a lot of them at all. And I was like, most don't get quote unquote justice. Hopefully soon I can feel up to talking about it thoroughly on the podcast, but at the moment mentally it's a bit too much. And I was like, I can recommend some accounts to get you up to date and more informed if you like. So that's a really nice fucking response from what I've just said, right? Before, to my initial reaction. Like, that's so nice. He doesn't even respond. He doesn't say anything, which is just rude. But also, like, and as I said, like, the reason we haven't done a whole podcast on this is because, for one, I'm always learning myself, like, growing up in a white neighborhood and with a white parent and not being exposed to black culture. I'm still not informed about everything to do with racial injustice and everything like that. Like, I have experienced some stuff, but not to the degree of, obviously, what other people do, what other black people do, and obviously black people who are completely, like, who are much darker than me. And just even being in a different environment and being the way I look, I don't have to experience things in Australia that other people do. So I don't want to say anything wrong. I'm always learning consistently, and I don't feel like I have the right to talk about a lot of things because I don't have the full information. And then sometimes I just don't want to. I don't think I could get through a whole episode, honestly, without crying. I don't want to talk about black people being shot and blatantly murdered on video. Like,
you're not an activist or a teacher or anything. Exactly. So it's like, and I totally understand what you mean. And it's like, this person, I don't think you in any way want to discourage people from, like, wanting to be educated, because, like, this dude would be, like, reaching out with the best intentions. But then I think it's until you hear, like, it's good that you're, because I think some people might listen to this and be like, what does she mean? Like, we're trying to, but I think it's good for you to verbalize that and for people to understand, because it's one of those things you're like, oh, Ali's black, I want to find out about black stuff. And you're like, well.
Yeah, and see how, I just don't think you understand. A lot of people just don't understand. And of course, if I'm in a discussion with a friend or something and something comes up and, like, they ask or, like, something like that, I will happily have a discussion and explain something to that. But at least show me you've done some sort of research yourself. You know what I mean? Like, if he would have come to me and been like, hi, I saw this case. This might be really hard for you to talk about, so take your time. I saw that you I saw that you posted this. I was just wondering, like, how can I do this, or what's your opinion on this? I would have like felt a bit better because like I could see that he had actively done his own research. He's taken the time to acknowledge that this might be difficult for me. Like I might not want to respond, and it's valid. But I just think there's a lot of things that people don't understand, like murders like that could be my niece, my nephew, my brother, my dad, and like it's not just like, oh, let's just easily have a little Instagram conversation about all these deaths in my community. So yeah, next time when you want to go ask somebody, a person of color, about what's happening in their culture or their background, don't, or at least take the time to think about how you would feel in that scenario.
Yes.
But that's that. And go do research, guys, if you want to know. There's so many Instagram accounts. There's so many sites. There's lots of things you can do.
And black people who are also black people, but this is like their thing to, and they are actively out here trying to share and inform.
Yeah, they're literally activists. But even sometimes they need some space. And do it respectfully, too, if you're going to reach out to them. Of course, though, always.
For sure.
So that's at the end of the heavy stuff. I hope you guys have survived this far. And
thank you so much for listening, everybody. If you did enjoy this episode, please go leave a rating and review, and also subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And let us know your thoughts on anything that was said, any like personal experiences you have that are similar. Slide into our DMs on the gram, the Undecided Gen Z.
give me advice. Just help me in every aspect.
You can follow us on our personals at Theo.McCoy, at Ali_Malcolm for some extra content. But otherwise,
I'm so sorry. I just need to apologize that episode was just me like talking the whole time. And you know how we get those like, they're not like hate comments, but we get those comments like, Ali just interrupts Theo and Ali just talks for too long. This is one episode that person's not going to like. So sorry about that.
No, we hope you enjoyed it. And we've got some guests lined up soon, so we're going to be bringing them back in a bit. But otherwise, we'll speak to you next week.
Yes. Speak to you next week.
Bye.
I'm turned 21 next week.
Oh, this is your last 20-year-old Ali episode.
Oh, I'm going to be finally legal in America. Time to go to Hawaii, Theo. Not maybe right now, but soon.
Yes, legit. Okay. Hawaii, we can go to Hawaii. Sorry. I was just saying that. I was like, bye. All right. Hawaii it is.
All right. See you on the flip side. Bye.